Hi guys, this is Al here, and today I bring to you a very basic topic, that is an introduction to gardening soils. So today we'll be talking about various aspects of gardening soils, but that is just the tip of the iceberg. There is a lot more to come in this series, and we are not going to go very deep into the topic today, and it's more of a theoretical lesson. We also have a lot of practical videos coming up that will be going in parallel with this theoretical series of videos that we are producing right now. So without wasting much time, let's get started.
So let's start with our first topic, that is an introduction to gardening soils. So we'll be covering 4 aspects of this topic. The first one is, what is soil made up of? The second one is, why do plants need soil? Then what are the types of soil based on grain size? And the last topic that we'll cover is the types of soil used or commonly available in the gardening hobby. So to answer the first question, what is soil made up of? At a very basic level, when one looks at soil can be divided into two components. The first one is the soil particles itself, and the second is pore space. For a unit of soil volume, there always 50% of the soil volume will be taken up by the soil particles itself, as actual solid matter, and the other 50% will be taken up by pore space, which will be air or water, whatever can take up the pore space. The first component that makes up a majority of the solid particles of the soil is the mineral matter of the soil. Now this mineral matter comes from weathered rock, which gets broken down because of chemical processes and nature and ends up as smaller particles, makes up majority of the soil. It makes up for 45% of the soil volume. The other solid component of soil is organic matter itself. Organic matter can be various things like leaves or other biological organisms that are decaying in the soil. They make up for around 5% of the soil volume. And this is a very important component of soil. It provides nutrition to soil from a plant point of view. So like I said earlier, pore space can be taken up by either soil air or soil water. So if you have a good balanced soil, generally 25% of the soil volume should be taken up by air, and the other 25% should be taken up by the soil water, that is water in the soil. There is another component that exists within soil that cannot be ignored. This is part of every soil in your garden or even in your container garden. This is a component that exists, that is living organisms that are there in the soil. These living organisms can be bacteria, algae, nematodes, earthworms, mites, insects, and various other such organisms that burrow in the ground. They live underground, and they also sometimes have a symbiotic relationship with the plants themselves. Moving on to our next topic, why do plants need soil? The first one is a very obvious reason. It is to physically support the plant. The second one is to supply water to the plant. Now, soil is the medium that supplies water to the plant through the roots. The third one is to supply air to the plant. The roots also have the ability to breathe. Therefore, air is also something that a plant gets through the roots. The last one is to supply nutrients to the plants. That is macronutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and also other micronutrients that are needed in smaller quantities. Before moving on, let us also look at how these points, though they seem theoretical in nature, have a very practical implication. Sometimes beginners forget to factor that soil needs to support a plant. A top-heavy plant cannot be potted in a very shallow pot. It needs to be potted in a pot that gives it enough physical support. Next is supply water to the plant. Understand that the soil is what supplies water to the plant. So you need to water at the base, not the leaves. Balanced watering is also needed, especially if your plants are in containers. Supplying air to the plant, the practical implication of this is you need to use airy soil. Don't use soil that is fully clay. There needs to be a component of sand or silt in it which gives some kind of airiness to it, or maybe coco peat. This will avoid compaction in the soil, which will suffocate the roots over time. And the implication of the fourth one is that the soil supplies nutrients to the plant. Many beginners forget this, and nutrients need to be replenished over time, especially if you are using a container. So regular fertilization is very important for any plant. Now let's look at the types of soil that are based on grain size. So understanding this provides a foundation when we look into the practical types of soil that we use in the hobby. The first one here is clay. Clay grains are really small in size, that is less than 0.002 mm. And the second one is silt. Silt grains are 25 times larger than that of the largest clay particle, that is 0.05 mm. And then we have sand. Sand grains are 1,000 times larger than the largest clay particle, that is around 2 mm in size. The last one is gravel. I wouldn't officially classify gravel as a soil type because gravel most probably is used for maybe decorative purposes or hydroponics. But gravel is anything that has particles that are greater than 2 mm in size. But we are more concerned with clay, silt and sand. So let's look at the more practical side of this, how it impacts actual soil types available in the hobby. So we will look at the types of soil used in the gardening hobby. There are 6 types of soil. First we'll look at 4 and then we'll look at the other 2 based on a particular type of classification. The first one is clay soil. This is soil that has a high concentration of clay. These soils are usually very high in nutrients, but they are bad in drainage and they are susceptible to compaction. They are pretty sticky in nature, and I would say don't use a soil that has a very high component in clay because it will harden after time and cause compaction. The second one is silty soil. Now, because of the larger grains of silt, it's different in texture. It feels silky in texture when you rub it between your fingers. Now, this is also very high in nutrients, but it is slightly lesser in nutritional value than clay soil. This doesn't drain so well. It is not as bad in drainage as clay soil. The next one is sandy soil. Sandy soil is sandy in texture because it has a higher component of sand in it. This type of soil is free draining and low in nutrients. It supports cacti and succulents very well, but it might not be a good soil type for humidity loving plants that need to retain water. Now, loamy soil is a very ideal type of soil. It has a balanced mix of sand, silt and clay. So it's usually high in nutrients because of the presence of clay and silt, and it has a decent amount of drainage also because of the presence of sand in it, and it supports a very wide range of plants. So that is the soil type that you must aim for, loamy soil. So these soils were based on the composition ratio of sand, silt and clay. We look at the next one, peaty soil. Peaty soil is acidic in nature. It's acidic soil. It's usually black in color and pretty spongy. It has a spongy texture and it supports a fewer range of plants. Generally, very acid-loving plants will do well in peaty soil, like azaleas and hydrangeas. And the last soil type is chalky soil. The chalky soil is alkaline in nature. It's usually lighter in color and it's more free draining. It doesn't retain water as well. And again, it supports fewer plants that love alkaline conditions. Plants like clematis and Boston ivy are plants that thrive in alkaline soil. So these 2 soil types that we are looking at are based on the pH level of the soil or the acidity of the soil.
This video that you just saw is part of a series. We have many more coming your way, which will be covering the whole concept of soil and fertilization. So hope you like this video. If you have any feedback or you want us to cover specific topics, you want us to do it in a particular way, please use the comment section to let us know. Also, please do consider subscribing. We have a lot of content coming your way. I'll see you soon again.